Good morning, everyone. Sorry to be a little late. We're still waiting for Ginger Kwan to participate, but maybe she can just come on. My name is Velma Valoria. I'm a former state representative, and I've been working with EEC since I think 2016, and I do a lot of their community organizing and outreach. So with that, I want to introduce you to Renika, our communication staff and opportunity and workforce co-chair. So Renika?
Hi. So yeah, I will be facilitating today's lunch and learn on equitable access for ELL students with disabilities and special needs care. And I want to start off by allowing our panelists that we have on to introduce themselves. And I will pass it off to Stacy.
Sorry about that, unmute. Hi, I'm Stacy Holmes. I'm from Neighborhood House, and I am the Senior Education Manager there.
And Remy?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Remy Afros and I'm from Neighborhood House as well with Stacy. I've been a Medicaid program manager, managing the long-term case management of the Medicaid program. I have been with Neighborhood House for 3 years. I'm also an academic researcher with Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm actually from Canada, so very excited to be here and nice to meet you all.
Awesome, thank you. So to just get the conversation going, I wanted to start off by asking the two of you just what type of work and services that you offer at Neighborhood House. And feel free during this conversation just to pop in. There's no formality.
Okay, I can start. So I work in the child development department at Neighborhood House. We serve children and families birth through 5. We provide Head Start, so preschool, early Head Start, that's birth through 3. And then so we have early Head Start, and then we also have our ECAP program, which is state funded. We do full day programs, half day programs, full year programs. So we have quite a variety of options for our families. With students with special needs, we have an inclusion model, so children are part of our classrooms, and yeah.
I can go next. So I manage the Medicaid long-term care program. This program is state funded, and we all know how Medicare, Medicaid works. So the demographics we serve is the aging and disabled population of the South King County, ages 65 years and older. Currently, my program has over 1,200 clients who are living in the South King County areas. We are serving in 8 different languages, in Arabic, Farsi, Dari, Amharic, Tigrinya, Oromo, Ukrainian, and Russian. Those are the languages that currently we're serving our clients. The long-term case management program is intensive in nature. The care management is highly tailored based on our client's need. And then we provide in-home case management where a case manager is constantly involved in monitoring the Medicaid program and making sure that clients' care's needs are met. So that's pretty much in a nutshell of how our program functions.
Thank you. So I'm wondering, what is some of the biggest hurdles that you've seen ELL students with special needs have to overcome I would say to make it broad in general, but especially during this time of COVID and remote learning.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, getting the services is huge. So so we have a variety of languages also that we provide translation for. The main languages for us would be Vietnamese, Spanish, Amharic, and Oromo. And so, well, first off, yeah, accessing the services is extremely hard. And it's even harder during COVID because there's so much paperwork. And the paperwork is generally in English or Spanish. So having, yeah, I mean, it's just an intense amount of paperwork. On top of that, the technical issues, all of our families were given tablets, and so that we can still continue to do remote services with them. But that in itself was very, very difficult for our families. And then, as we know, I mean, being on, the fatigue of being online ourselves have always is hard, but then you have a child who may have attention issues. And then, you're asking them to sit in front of a computer, not be able to touch things, not being able to interact with the materials. It's extremely difficult to keep kids engaged. So I would say accessing the services. And then once having the services, I mean, that's been pretty, very difficult for kids who need things such as OT, PT, those type of services. It's really hard to do remote, right? They're not getting the services that they need. And then when they're in the classroom, one of the big hurdles that I see is when we're actually are in class is that, well, at least for Seattle Public Schools, they don't push into our classrooms. They have our children, they bus them to their services. And so that takes up a lot of time. I think it's confusing for the kids. It's just, to me, it's a very poor model. So I think that's a huge hurdle for us. There's not enough providers so that they don't come into our classes. They bus our children.
Thank you, Stacy. I think that is pretty much what I was going to say. It's kind of same. I know that we serve a different demographics, but I have also faced an enormous challenge of accessing resources, specifically for clients who cannot speak English or has limited proficiency in English. There has been a huge shortage of finding linguistically appropriate services for these clients. Has been an overwhelmingly challenge for us for the case managers who speak these languages. We were not able to find enough resources or support in the language. And that was one of the biggest hurdles to serve our communities. Because if they are not understanding what's in their care plan, if nobody is translating in their languages, then they are not aware of what needs to be done. And that goes for their families too. And for the children, I mean, Stacy is so right in terms of saying that, even giving children a Chromebook or a laptop does not necessarily solve the problem, because somebody has to be there to support them with how to learn these things, how to navigate through a laptop. We at the Aging and Disability Services had the same issue. All of the case management services that was supposed to be in-home got waived by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid since March 2020. And it's been overwhelmingly challenge of emotionally supporting folks who are in ELL, specifically our disabled clients. It's just, they are isolated, they are depressed. We see a huge hike in depression. Emotional support was very lacking. We could not find enough mental health counselors who speak the language to support our clients. So it's just been a very, very challenging year. But I mean, one thing I think I have learned through challenges is to become more and more intuitive and becoming more and more creative and finding ways to navigate challenge. I think that's one great thing is that I probably have learned to use my brain even a little bit more. So I'm grateful for that experience, but at the same time, the challenges has been enormous. And we felt it in every level of the services that we provide at Neighborhood House.
Yeah. A lot of pivoting, a lot of like planning and then being like, nope, that didn't work. Let's pivot
A
this
lot
way.
of trials and errors, yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
trials and errors on our end.
Still on mute. How do families access your services? As I would say, especially right now with social distancing, everyone being at home, not everyone having access to internet, and how are families accessing these services?
So for us, to get enrolled in our program, everything again is online. You have to fill out an application, and it's based on need. And then to actually get our services, so we have a couple different options that we made available to our families. So like I said, everybody got a laptop with internet, and we offer two options. So the first one is for families who want basically like classroom time kind of. So we do 12 sessions per week that we provide to the families. And those are kind of set up like a classroom. So teachers have made their homes into classrooms, and it's a classroom feel as much as possible. And so that's 12 sessions. And then they do a home visit, talk on the phone with the parent once a week and just kind of check in, see what's going on with them. The other option for families who are working and don't have that much time or have maybe too many children at home and just can't commit to that much would be more of a home visit model. So they get 90 minutes a week. They don't have to do the full 90, but we provide 90 minutes. And that's more of working with the family to teach them how to teach their child. So it's a different model. It's not a classroom model. It's more of a modeling, working with the family type of feel to that. And then with that model, we do once a week socialization. And that's when, because that's more of a one-on-one model. So once a week, then the children have an opportunity and the parents to kind of do like a big Zoom kind of thing and try to make that as interactive as possible. I'd say that is the one area that we've been pivoting a lot with, because we originally thought, this is such a great idea. And then we're realizing that especially our special needs kids, that's way too overwhelming for them. They do not like having that many people on the screen. And also it's just another challenge for those parents to get to the socialization. It's, most of those parents are the ones who are busy to begin with, and then adding another thing that we thought was going to be so great. Actually, they've kind of been like, yeah, no, that's just one more thing. So yeah, we've had to kind of figure out what works best for our families, time-wise as well. We have, in the beginning, we were offering weekends if families needed it. It just kind of depended on what families needed.
And how do home visits work with COVID protocols?
So that's why, yeah, no, it's not an actual home visit. It's just, we call them home visits, but they're, they're on the phone or they're on Zoom. It's just a different model. It's just, they're working more on family needs because it's, we have full service. So we work with them on health screenings, all different stuff, not just the education. And so the home visits really focus more on what the parent might need, and then kind of more modeling in terms of giving them ideas of what they can do with their child at home. During the school year, though, the home visit is what it is. I mean, they go into the home and they actually, again, work with the family for our early Head Start. And then for our Head Start, our 3 to 5 kids, every quarter, we either do a conference or a home visit where we go into the family's home, meet with them, try to establish a relationship. The kids love it when teachers come into their homes. They get really excited.
Yeah, so as I said, for us, home visit has been waived. So there has not been any home visit, but we have been making communication with the clients and the families with children via Zoom. So we do a lot of video calling and just, kind of try to bring the case managers or the team nurse or the other health professionals kind of like doing either Zoom or via Skype. So we have been maintaining communication that way. What the other thing we have done is to reach out the families and maybe the neighbors and other folks who might be in need of the care, is that when we sent, I think in March, we sent kind of like a mass letter to everybody. And then we put a bunch of our like business cards and stuffs. And we said that if anybody in the family or neighborhood, you know that they need the care or want it to be, now they are qualified for Medicaid benefits, or they wanted to need some support for other neighborhood house services such as housing stability or child development program, just give us a call and we will connect you. So we have sent a wave of letters to all of our 1,200 clients back in March. And then we have done kind of like a monitor plan call, which is part of the long-term care program strategy via state protocol. We have to call our clients every 3 months. Just to check how they're doing, how their families are doing, whether all the care has been met, do they need any resources. We have done this time with not on the families, but also not with the clients, but also with their caregivers. So we try to make it as comprehensive as possible to make sure that we are reaching out to the families and their caregivers and kind of like knowing if they have all the resources they need. So that was one technique. At the beginning of the COVID, I remember the first 3 months, our program director, Julie Romero, and we thought that maybe we should just keep somebody after hours in case any client calls and they have an emergency and they don't know how to connect with emergency services. And we took turn, like every day we took turn, and then someone was there to receive the call, like the general office line. We were there to checking the voicemail after 5 o'clock up until 10 o'clock at night. So we took turns just to make sure that we are providing the support and people are able to reach to us, because we knew that the language is going to be a very big barrier for people in emergency cases. And we know that we cannot work around the clock. We're not in emergency case management services, but we tried our best. And those are the ways, like, you know, we really tried to help each other. And yeah, I mean, so far, I think we have gone through a big hurdle, I guess. Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you for all of the hard work you all are doing, especially after hours. Apologies if this was already covered and I missed, but what language translations do you provide? We've seen a lot of just language barrier after language barrier with too many resources not being translated into languages that are spoken in community. What languages, and you mentioned these letters went out to families, and did these go out in translation as well?
Yeah, thank you, Renika, for that question. Absolutely. I mean, we would always make sure that we know that who we're sending, because our clients are, as I said, they are divided based on the languages and where they live. So we made language translated by our case managers on every single one. So whenever we sent the letters, it was a copy of English and then also a copy of their own languages. So if it was in Arabic, it was Arabic, Farsi, and so on and so on. So we never sent a letter that was just in English. It was always translated by our case managers who knows this client and know their dialects, which was very important because, as you know, in Farsi and in Arabic, there are differences how people speak the languages. So we had to make sure that we are sending it to the most appropriate languages that our clients are using. So yes, I remember probably had to do like 3 or 4 different ways of writing, and for Oromo as well, because they speak different dialect. Like Harare is one type of Oromo languages. So yeah, we tried our best. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I can say about neighborhood houses, I think that we do an exceptional job of trying to pair families with a language match. We're not always able to, but a lot of the staff that we work with speak the languages and are from the community. So I would say that the languages right now that we're able to support would be Spanish, Vietnamese, Oromo, and Amharic would be the main languages of the families that we serve. And when I say we don't really provide, I mean, the staff provides translation and they work with the families. And then any languages that we can't support in-house, we will use it, a translator service. But generally, we've been pretty lucky to be able to have a nice language match with a lot of our families, and it helps tremendously.
Awesome. That is really great to hear, all things considered, with a lot of resources just not being translated.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Very. What are some other institutional barriers that, if you could take any of these institutional barriers and remove them to support our students further, what are some institutional barriers out there that some of our CBOs and other organizations can be looking at to support, to help in removing for our students?
I mean,
it's a big question.
Yeah, there's a lot. So yeah, I mean, paperwork would be a huge one. I mean, I just think it's so difficult to get services. I think that, just to even get a screening for your child, can take months. It's just, the process is very, very slow. I would like to see the screening process go away. I would like it to jump right to evaluations personally. I think that most of the time teachers and parents know these children very, very well and don't need to have them screened and then wait another couple months to have them evaluated. So if we could skip that process, that would be great. I think that there needs to be more services. I mean, I'm seeing children get 15 minutes of OT a week. It takes like 10 minutes to calm a child down, and then 5 minutes, it doesn't make any sense. I think there needs to be more of that. I don't think that there's enough. I don't think a child needs to be pulled out of the classroom to receive all of these different services. I think they should be, it should be much more, there should be much more inclusion than there is happening. People talk a good game about it, but then it's not happening. Children who receive 2 services, so if a child receives speech and OT, they qualify then to go into a developmental preschool. And that's a small classroom with, maybe 9-10 kids in it. And some of those kids don't need to be in a developmental preschool. They need to be in a full day preschool, having providers pushed in. So they're around, they're typically developing peers and can learn from them. So those, I mean, I could go on forever about this, but those are some of my, I guess, my high horse triggers, things that I would like to see change.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Has
Please.
Neighborhood House worked with policymakers to get rid of this screening process?
Not that I know of.
So this is something that we would all be interested in. Are other people having these types of issues also on the call?
I can relate to these issues to some extent. I'm Valerie Crow, and I am currently on a leave of absence from the North Thurston School District. And I have been working with the special needs kids for about 3 years, and I've been amazed at how long it takes. With evaluation processes. I mean, this kid's she's needed the services she's just now getting since kindergarten, and she's in 2nd grade. And it's been a very long process and mysterious.
Yeah, it takes a really long time. Yeah, the other problem is that it takes a long time to get your evaluation. So when you finally get this appointment, and then parents, maybe don't have transportation, or they miss the meeting, or they didn't understand some part of it. And then you're back to square one. So it's very challenging.
And if I may add with Stacy what she said, there is a very interesting report from the National Education Academy 2015, and it's actually is talking about how educators can be an advocate. I found that report very interesting because I think it's talking about three of the major barriers. I think one of the biggest barrier is that um, lack of understanding of cultural appropriateness. And I go back and forth on that because that impacts education for ELL students. I mean, the other way is that I felt is one of the barrier is that we are lacking multiple ways to engage, um, and multiple ways to express and the multiple ways to present. Um, all of these are so vital for a child's education, specifically, when they come from a different background, from a different country, they're refugees, they're newly immigrant. There are so many barriers. So truly being culturally competent and aware of cultural awareness, it's really gonna enhance the learning. Because if we are not being able to express ourselves or our teaching materials in a meaningful way, then we are not really doing a good job as an educator. And I'm talking it from the perspective of my research with Kwantlen University, which I did a couple of years ago. Kwantlen University is, or the regional university in British Columbia, is the first university where we created an all-inclusive classes. Our first pilot project was with 5 intellectually disabled students, and kind of like putting them in a regular classroom with other students, and we wanted to see the progress. It was a pilot project for 4 years, and we were working toward an associate degree of 30 credits for these students. The biggest issue I have found as an educator with that specific group is that we did not have enough training. We did not have enough training to be culturally competent. And we are missing that out. Like we missed that to build an effective relationship. If we don't build an early relationship, then we won't be able to share our knowledge, or we won't be able to educate our students. And I think that was one feedback that we as a team received through the self-reflection. So going back to the Stacy's point, I think those assessments or screenings has to be very comprehensive, like statistically, a lot of the students who are coming from the ELL or are ELL students, um, their education and their learning is impacted negatively because of so many reasons: poor sleep, lack of nutrition, lack of resources, lack of support in the family level. Are we comprehensively assessing them? Because the way we used to think about health and wellness, it's not the same right now. 30 years ago, what World Health Organization says about health is all about whether there is a presence or absence of disease. That's not the case anymore. We have gone way beyond that. Now, health and wellness has many different dimensions. I mean, are we assessing, like when I go and assess my client, I have to think that, are we assessing my client who are disabled and disadvantaged? Am I assessing them based on their emotional capacity? Am I assessing them on their nutrition, their sleep, their environmental awareness, their physical activity? No. So again, there are a lot of gaps. There are a lot of the things we can do, but in my experiences, those are the biggest barriers in learning.
I did want to add just one other thing, because now you got me going on this, is that I mean, I've been in the field for a really long time, and what I've noticed recently is that, I'm gonna try to say this, when teachers come out of school, some of the programs that they're coming from are not providing student teaching. They're not providing that opportunity to learn classroom management. And so we're also seeing that some of the teachers that are coming into the classrooms don't have any special ed background, don't have any, behavior management skills. And so I think that, and what made me think of this was when you're talking about assessing children, they don't always know, right? Also what to look for in some of our students. So that was just something else I was thinking about.
Hi, this is Tita with the Khmer community. And I just wanted to piggyback on what Remy said about cultural competency. I think that's really, I think that's the number one thing to think about when you're trying to build relationship or meaningful relationship and connecting with the families. Because in our communities, you know, we look at disabilities as there's a stigma associated with that. And so, you know, we have a couple families with kids with autisms, and you know, and how do they perceive that within their communities and or within the families, you know, because there's such a stigma associated, you know, with the disability. So having somebody with cultural competency to really understand and connect with the families, and because I think there's a gap between the teaching of the, you know, like what's being required by the state to teach, you know, ELL students, and how does that you know, being transferred to the home life, right? Because you only have teaching a couple hours in the classroom, but yet how is that to the home life and to, you know, within the community to really you know, not only you have to educate the family how to deal with kids, you know, with disabilities, but also, you know, how the community, you know, looking at them in that context. And so so I think it's very important that we look at the holistic view when we're dealing with disabilities, from, you know, from the child to the families and to the communities, just because the stigma that associate with you know, with EL students and disability as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you. And in the chat, I'm saying, have you ever experienced pushback from families who do not want their child evaluated or labeled? And also just curious about the cultural differences regarding disability that may come up in these multicultural learning spaces, which I think might have been touched on just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that. Definitely get pushback, 100%. I mean, that's, you know, wow, yes. And so that's a process. It's you know, it starts from, you know, when we get our kids enrolled, let's say in September, and we do our own ASQ, which is ages and stages assessment, we do our own screenings. And then just through observation, if we start to notice that maybe there's a need there, we start, you know, as soon as we can establish a relationship with the family, we start talking about it. And it can take years. It can take, you know, some of our kids we've had for, you know, they start with us in early Head Start and they go through, you know, all the way through to 5. And we just have to do the best that we can to just continue to support them. But we get a lot of pushback within the community. And you're absolutely right. I mean, especially, you know, the diagnosis of autism is just so scary. And, you know, there's so much fear around the vaccines and autism within the communities that we serve. And so, yeah, a lot of pushback. It can be very challenging.
Can I have a question?
Oh, yes, please.
No, just really fast. Right now that she mentioned ASQs, I've been running into ASQs because we had a family that needed it in Vietnamese and they did not have that. And I felt a little, to the parent, because I was like, I want your input, but I cannot. And I felt, talk about, I guess, equitability. I was like, oh.
Did you, do you have access to ASQ online?
I do, yes, I do.
And don't they have it in Vietnamese?
The thing that it said was, and I can even put it in the chat, was that it was for, I want to say that you had to buy it, and I quote,
You do.
We do not have any questionnaires translated in Omara for the ASQ not available or ASQ3 Vietnamese. they're only available for purchases.
Yeah.
Yes, and just to build up on Coco, we work together. So yes, there is also a lot of languages ASQ is not even translated into. In Vietnamese, only ASQ 3 is translated, but not the social emotional part.
Oh.
So there's definitely a lot of missing parts.
Yeah, yeah.
And I should have taken that right. Yes, Teresa, I shouldn't have taken your question, but yeah, that was one of my colleagues, and she was wondering that, and I was like, oh, that's a hard one because I also work with kids that are Vietnamese and Chinese and Mandarin speakers, and I was thinking, oh, I haven't had the chance to have to do that, but if I did, that would be a very hard thing to get the parent and bridge that gap.
Yeah, yeah. We just had that exact situation happen, and luckily we have a staff member who speaks Vietnamese, and so was able to meet with the family and kind of go through it together and everything. But yeah, that Vietnamese was a hard one for us.
To point back about teacher training, do you think requiring dual certification for teachers would be helpful in terms of more inclusive placements?
Yes, yes, I do personally, absolutely. If we want to have inclusion classrooms, and if that's what our goal is, then we have to start, offering that a lot to our teachers and putting that into the curriculum for sure. Otherwise, these teachers come out and they're, they want to be successful. They're so excited, and yet then they're not prepared. It's not fair.
Absolutely. I wanted to go back to the screening process for a quick moment, just to ask, not knowing the screening process at all, are there any racial inequities you've seen within the process that are hindering students from the services they need, just throughout the process in general? Or is it just the fact that the process is so long and
I would say it's more that it's long. And, again, translation, all that type of thing still, still falls into it being difficult. It just seems like it's just one step too many. It's just, let's get them to the avail. Let's just, I feel like if a parent is saying, I have concerns about my child, and they say, well, we're going to put them through a screening, and they say, well, this is kind of, I think they're okay. Well, that's disregarding the, what the parent is saying. Let's have them really availed, right? Let's have someone go through all the different developmental areas and look. I think you're muted.
Oops. So there's been a lot of conversation throughout the whole year, but especially now with schools reopening and wanting to open. With schools wanting to open, how do you think this will affect students, and what are the immediate needs y'all are seeing if schools were to reopen on really any type of model, whether it's full or a hybrid?
I'm sorry, what are the barriers to that? Is that what you're saying?
How do you think reopening schools will affect the students, and what are some of the most pressing needs that students are going to need if we were to go back to any type of in-person or hybrid form?
Yeah, I think I think that they're going to need some social emotional curriculum for sure. I think our kids have been at home. This, again, in our communities that we serve, there's so much fear. And so I think coming back, we're going to see some behaviors. We're going to see kids, they haven't been in routines. They haven't been, challenged in the way of following new directions and things like that. And so, and they're also going to be really excited, right? So, and then the learning environment itself is going to be so different. Less kids in the classroom, only being allowed to probably play with certain toys so that things can be cleaned. And So I think we're definitely going to have to take some steps back and think about the social emotional aspect of how we're going to support our children, and a lot of patience because I think it's going to take some time.
Yeah, I agree with Stacy. I mean, as a mother, I feel like that it's mostly gonna be a lot of emotional support that will be needed. And it's gonna be a student by student basis because everybody's need is gonna be different. They will be coming from, you know, their own family situations, and everybody experienced COVID differently. So the needs are, I mean, the needs to be assessed very tailored way. It cannot be just like, you know, we'll be doing this today and then imagining that all the kids gonna be smiling and being happy is not gonna be happening for a while. As an lecturer at the college, I just feel like that I have to catch up so much, and I have to do so many, you know, just everybody gets a B or like an A minus. Like I just have to go through that and then tell people it's okay. Don't panic. You'll still pass my course. I'm just preparing on that way. Because a lot of my students are freshmen in college, and they will be coming back, and this is going to be really their first experience of coming back to college. And I don't know how to emotionally process that for myself, but I am just going to be very brave face and then just welcome them and support them and give everyone an A. That's it.
So how can CBOs, like organizations like the EEC, help support and advocate for just overall more equitable access for our ELL special needs students during this time and going forward? I know that with COVID, the one positive is that there's been a lot of room and opportunity to change systems and processes. How can our organizations help support y'all in this work?
I mean,
Who do we need
I
to
would
call?
that I don't know, but I think you know, preparing working with our families and helping them, you know, advocate the systems is really, I think, for me, a big one. Just any kind of support and advocacy for parents going through the process of getting their child evaluated, understanding the process, things like that are huge. And then, you know, anything that you guys could do to increase the services for children would be great. You know, I don't know who comes up with these plans, but I've sat in many IEP meetings and been like floored by what they think is appropriate for these kids. I'm from New York originally, and I mean, I thought that system wasn't great. In comparison, New York is leaps and bounds ahead of Washington. Children with special needs, if you had a child who had a diagnosis of autism, you got 40 hours of support with like OT, PT, ABA. I mean, you just got the level of support was crazy. It was great. And then, you know, here when I'm seeing kids getting 15 minutes of OT and, you know, 30 minutes a week for speech for a little guy who's not talking, and, you know, they're 4.5. It's mind blowing to me. So yeah, anything you guys could do about that would be great.
I agree with Stacy. I would also like to say a little bit. I was not that fortunate with having opportunity to education, and have been through a lot of barriers in when I was growing up, being in a very religiously biased environment where women's education was not absolutely a no-no. And I think it was my educators, my teachers, who made the difference in my life. And I remember my second grade teacher once told me that, you know, advocacy lens is always appropriate, but it is imperative when you are facing injustice. So I took that kind of like as a motto of my life. You know, it's advocacy piece. It doesn't have to be start with in a very big level or does not need to be reached at the beginning to a very high level or to like very high officials. I think it's within us, and it's basically the support and that leaning on to each other. There will be a lot of healing needs to be done when kids go back to school, and we need to lean on to each other and support each other. And I think you all, Velma and Renika, you guys are doing a fantastic job of including all of us into this platform just to share and just to, you know, making sure that we all have that support. I think that is the very first thing need, to make it bigger, to make it a wave. And equity is a big piece. It's a big thing. We talk about it all the time. But I really wanted to see an action and changes. I am completely up for a comprehensive assessment. I think that's where it all begins. I think we are lacking on that. We are missing out the social aspect of it when we assess a student. We are missing out the spiritual aspect of it when we are assessing. We're missing out how a family values things, how they, what is their cultural understanding of education and improvement. We're missing out a lot of key pieces when we assess children and we let them go through this door of education. So I think if we can advocate toward that, and make resources available for us as an educators, we need to have the right tools to give our children the right education. I often feel that always have to struggle for that. And it should not be a struggle for us as an educator. It should be a priority for us. So advocating for that, and COVID taught us a very big lesson. Kids are giving something, but they don't know how to use it. How do I help my student? So, yeah.
A question in the chat is, what do you see as the barriers to a more robust systems? Funding, attracting / retaining qualified staff, hours provided in like a typical school day?
Yes. So definitely funding. And I mean, this is exactly attracting and retaining quality staff. I mean, the job is really hard. It's really hard. I mean, those teachers work really hard. They have 20 students in a classroom. You know, sometimes 3 to 5 special needs kids in a classroom. And then they have an assistant teacher. You know, that's a lot. It's a hard teaching young kids is very difficult. So yeah, I would like to see more funding for teachers. I'd like to see them get paid more so that they can, I mean, that's the, you know, everybody says that, right? You know, teachers need more, but they do, I swear. I mean, they work really hard. And you can, you know, be the best organization possible and try to support your staff and, you know, do reflective teaching and reflective practice. And it's at the end of the day, it's still really hard to keep staff and to keep them motivated and happy. Yeah.
Stacey,
And I mean,
you mentioned, oops,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
So you mentioned that we could advocate for more increase in services, and you gave the example of New York, where they get like 40 hours and we get
Yeah.
15 minutes. How would, if I was to go to my legislator and say, hey, you know, I want more services for our special needs students, what do I ask for? Do I ask for, like, instead of 15 minutes, can we have 30 minutes? You know, that kind of stuff. It's just, I just don't know the process, I guess is what I'm saying.
The process of figuring out how much service a child needs.
Yes, or even getting just more minutes or hours for you to be able to do the evaluation or to do the work with the student.
I don't know exactly how you would are you asking like how I would explain that? I mean, it's really how they decide on what a child gets. It's really based on the provider and the person who did the evaluation. They make these recommendations and they say, okay, you know, this child fell this percentage when we did the eval. And so we recommend that they get, 2 hours a week of service. And what I see happening is, especially with our ELL families, is that they don't understand that that's not enough. So they don't question it. They just kind of say, okay, there's, for the families who are getting these services and want the services, they're just so grateful for getting any help, right? So they're like, oh, 15 minutes. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. And so, I don't know, is that kind of helping to answer your question?
Yes. So it's just not you making the decision. It's actually educating the parents to ask for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't have to sign the IEP, right? Or the IFSP. They don't have to agree to it. They can say, no, I want to go back to the table and I want to ask for more. Can you explain this to me? So yeah, educating the parents too about, that they are the ones who lead those conversations. That's the other thing that I know we don't have a ton of time, but the other thing that I've noticed here is that the role the parent plays in these IEP meetings is not very much at all. They come into these meetings and they already have it all laid out. But this is what this child's going to get in terms of services. And that's not how an IEP meeting should be run. An IEP meeting should be, it is a collaboration of everybody who's part of that evaluation team should be there talking about what they saw and then deciding from there. And that's not happening. So especially for families who are not comfortable with the system, going into this meeting, you get a packet like this of information that they go through. Again, it's very rarely not in the language that they speak. So they have this packet of information that they can't read. Someone just kind of telling them what they're going to give them, and little input from the families. And because they've waited so long for these services, right, they're not about to say no, because then that would be another whole meeting that they have to wait for. So it's a challenge.
So Sarah has, I guess, put in the chat if everybody would talk about it. She said that she would love to dig into this more because it's a complex issue.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you want to talk about it? Because the thing I want to ask is, would you all in this call consider maybe forming a little group that would dig into these issues a little deeper and then, try to figure out how CBOs like us can help you? I guess
this is Sarah. I'm happy.
Oh,
sorry, Velma. I'm just happy to chime in briefly. So I'm Sarah Butcher. I'm a parent, and I do a lot of advocacy, in particular around students with disabilities and special education. And I've just really enjoyed this conversation. But I just wanted to tie back to the, how do families get more services? I joke that everybody gets 15 minutes. Like literally, when you look at the data, that's what everyone gets, unless a family knows how to push back. And that's really complex and inequitable and problematic. So there's a lot of issues, but a big part is that Washington really has not, they haven't shifted away from kind of the minimum, right? This de minimis, what is the minimum amount we need to offer to a student, rather than looking at grade level learning standards and what they need academically, socially, emotionally to be able to fully access the education system. And then what are the supports and services needed for that? So there's belief issues in our state that I feel like really need to shift. There's also issues around resourcing and staffing and all the things that have been brought up already today. But I would love any opportunity to further dig into these issues. I think there's some real opportunities right now for a number of reasons to start making this shift. And frankly, if we do this work well, it benefits every single kid in every single school. And it's shocking to me that there isn't that shared understanding. And then maybe we can actually start to, close some gaps and address the disproportionality that exists in special education right now, and address kind of the stigma, right? All these different components. So thank you to the EEC and all of you for being here and hosting this conversation. I appreciate it.
So Sarah, just to take it even a little further, if anybody is interested in doing what Sarah is doing, perhaps a group could be formed so that if you wanted to write your emails there, maybe Sarah and you guys can all get together and have that kind of discussion. Would that work?
Yeah, I'll put my email address in the chat and happy to connect with anybody around this issue.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Are there any other questions? Elizabeth, you're looking like you want to go ahead.
Yes, hi, Auntie. Hi, Auntie. Hello po.
Hi.
I'm Elizabeth, and I'm with Seattle Public Schools EL program. And I came in late to the conversation, so I apologize if you've already addressed some of the things that I'm thinking about. And a big part of that is really something that Sarah mentioned with the shifting of our beliefs of how we do things in our school systems. Because I think there's a lot of students, multilingual learners, who are being identified inappropriately. And so I think there's two conversations that we need to look at. One is, how do we avoid identification of multilingual learners, and how do we shore up education for all, centering our multilingual learners, centering our students who will need more support rather than the mythical 80%.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Oh, I had for Valerie. Valerie, go ahead.
So I just want to throw this out there. I mean, I think that the whole idea of this being a much broader problem, piggybacking on what the last speaker and what Sarah just said, has to do with the emotional health of our school systems in general. And I've been in my mind working on an issue for a really long time, which I still haven't really found the language that I want for. But it's this recognition that our institutions are not emotionally healthy places, and particularly our educational institutions are not emotionally healthy places, and they're not emotionally healthy for anyone, even the most privileged person in the school system. So that means that, of course, the people who have the most barriers around justice and equity, it's going to be the least emotionally healthy for. So I think that idea of really looking at it super comprehensively, even, beyond English language learners and beyond special needs, but, just that, but that those are special groups contained within this larger realm that really needs attention. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it does. So I think we've got something started over here.
Yes.
For those people who are interested, Sarah, you've got Remy, you've got Stacy, and you've got Valerie that's interested in working on this. I don't see, did you put your email down?
Yes,
Oh,
they're all.
there it is, Sarah. Okay. Okay, so you guys got your emails together and then have a discussion. And if you wanted a CBO member there, I can probably get some other folks to help you. Would that be okay? Anything else? You guys are amazing. Renika, do you have any other questions?
I am good on my question. I just wanted to open it up if there was anyone else on the call that had any questions, comments, or thoughts. All right. Well, it seems this was a really great conversation. I want to thank you times a million to Sarah and Remy for, sorry, Stacy and Remy for being on the call. and really walking us through the work that y'all do. This is greatly appreciated. And like Velma said, it seems as if we have something going here in the chat, and maybe a new group started to really advocate for equitable access for our students. Velma, do you have any announcements?
No announcements at this point, but thank you all for being here today. We are going to, we do these monthly lunch and learns on different topics. So next month, we're going to be talking about anti-Asian hate and bias, because there's been a lot of experience in our communities like that. So stay tuned. We'll send you all some of this information. You can look us all up also in our website, eec/wa.org, to keep up with a lot of the things we're doing.
Yes, we have a newsletter that goes out bi-weekly that has information to events such as the Lunch and Learn that we do monthly, like Velma mentioned. And actually, we will be, and if you aren't on that listserv, if you go onto our website, you can sign up to get those notifications. We will be sending out an email this afternoon, if COVID willing, if we're at the right phase. We are hoping to be able to host our Decolonizing Education Conference this coming fall, November 3rd through the 5th. If not, we are looking at still providing that event online. So we are excited to announce that. Also, our requests for proposals are open. This seems like it could be the beginning of a great workshop for the conference. So if you're interested in doing a workshop, please look out for that email to visit our conference website to be able to view the RFP on the requirements and how to submit that proposal. And that will be open until the end of April. So yeah, if there are no further questions, I thank everybody for being on this call, and we'll give you back 20 minutes of your afternoon. Go get some lunch, go enjoy some food, take out the dogs, whatever you need to do. So thank you so much, everyone, for being on the call today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.